Hey guys, this episode is going to be about the rise of brown cars. I've been seeing a lot of brown cars on the road, and I did see a chart about car color and its popularity over the years. And it seems that brown cars became popular about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe around the start of the pandemic, maybe because people were thinking everything's going to shit. Let's get a car that reflects that color. And the popularity's gone down since, but I don't know. Something happened about 3 months ago where I just started noticing a lot of brown cars. They seem to have replaced the caffeine-free Coke can-colored car. Bronze, gold metallic, which feels like it was a common cigarette car color, but also Lexus color. Moms who had Lexus cars. Okay, let's move on. I want to talk about a recipe submitted from my number one listener called Danger Pudding. You boil a can of condensed milk for 20 minutes. Then you move it to the freezer. This is why it's called Danger Pudding, because it can explode because of the temperature change. And this is from my number one listener's granddaddy, who lived in Black Mountain, North Carolina, near where I just went last episode. If you listen to the awful 3 dinners I had in 4 hours in Asheville episode, I will say that the Asheville food scene, as random as it is, could really benefit from some authentic dishes, some historical dishes such as Danger Pudding. I was recently reading a New York Times cooking alfajores recipe because I need to make cookies soon. I need to make a large amount of cookies. This is mostly self-imposed, but I do have to go to a family reunion for Brian's family, which happens every year. It was moved to the fall because 4th of July is just too hot. And what is an appropriate cookie to make during September? I don't know. I looked into making alfajores, which this is why it's related. You take condensed milk and boil it for 3 hours and 15 minutes, but you can't let it boil because it might explode. So you have to wash it and make sure that it's simmering the whole time, which seems insane to me. When I made alfajores at Good Ambler in Chicago, we just made a caramel, like a dry caramel in a pot, and then added white chocolate or that like that golden toasted chocolate to it. And what else? I mean, cream, obviously. We basically made a ganache, like a caramel ganache, which is probably what I would do. Or I would buy dulce de leche. And anyway, I read that alfajores are, originally from Spain, but it's a Christmas cookie, technically. So I'm not going to make those. What cookie do you make for September? Because it's supposed to be like homecoming harvest fest themed, but it's September 12th. So that's still summery. It's like back to school, but it's still hot here. The leaves definitely aren't changing. What cookie do you make? I'm thinking about making the Italian ricotta cookie flavored with lemon because lemon feels appropriate, even though technically it's out of season. But lemon feels like a summery flavor. With yellow sanding sugar on top is what I'm thinking. And what was my other thought about this? Oh, I was deep in the New York Times cooking recipe for this, the comments of the New York Times cooking recipe for the Italian ricotta cookies. Apparently, these are Italian wedding cookies. And a lot of weddings happen during the summer, so this feels like a time appropriate cookie, and I think that's what I'm going to make, but I'm going to think about it more. Speaking of the South, speaking of it being hot, my number one listener was making a tomato pie with a ton of gorgeous yellow tomatoes that they grew. And it made me think, Southern people making pies in general in the heat. How did they chill their pie crust before refrigeration? Were they just making bad pie crusts? What did pie crust taste like before people were chilling their dough, adding ice water, freezing the butter before incorporating into the dough? Anyway, I have a Graza mayonnaise update. As you know, I threw away my jar of Graza mayonnaise that I got on sale because it tasted like lipstick. Now, I use it to store oil in because it is a nice jar. And I sent my friends who we visited in the mountains a picture of something I was making, and the jar of Graza mayo was in the background, which is filled with oil. They said, "Oh, we have Graza mayo as well." And I said, "Actually, I don't like it. I had to throw it away." They said, "Well, didn't want to throw a whole jar of mayonnaise away, so we used it, but yeah, it tastes like metal and it's not good." Now, I felt like a brat for throwing a whole jar of mayonnaise away after that. But I am so glad that somebody has finally talked about how bad Graza mayo is. So these folks, their sister is getting sent Graza mayo by Graza PR. They're just sending her all kinds of mayonnaise products because she's famous slash internet famous. And that's why they have all the Graza mayo. But I just need, so they're not buying it willingly, knowing that it's an awful product. But I just need more people to come forward and speak on their Graza mayonnaise experiences because nobody on Reddit is talking about this. It's disgusting. It tastes wrong. And don't let these trendy brands get away with making garbage and convincing. I mean, I just feel like there's something wrong with my palate for thinking that this fanciful brand, Top Chef sponsor brand, tastes bad. Let's be real and make them change their mayonnaise at least. Like, this is crazy. They should not be selling it. Anyway, someone in Chicago has contracted a brain injury from eating oysters at Gibson's Steakhouse. Gibson's Steakhouse, where women are not allowed to work there unless they are hostesses who wear floor-length gowns. Apparently, they have a location in the suburbs. I have gone to Gibson's before. I went there once, and I think I've talked about this before. There was a couple sitting in a booth behind me who ordered a slice of cake that was about 4 feet tall, and they ate all of it by themselves after eating dinner. Okay, so Gibson's in the suburbs has been sued over oysters allegedly linked to veterans' brain injury. This is a terrible story. But of course, I heard about this like a couple of days after we ate oysters at the Admiral in Asheville. I keep telling Brian we need to stop eating oysters. You just never know. It's always a gamble. And hopefully this time he will listen to me. I just can't eat raw oysters anymore. It's just like it's not worth the risk. Um what's my other update before we move into my scents, which is really disappointing this week? Um Here's a article from Good Housekeeping. Spending extra on avocado oil snacks for your health, which is insane. They're snacks. New study raises concerns about popular snacks. I've been paying extra for avocado oil foods. Now I'm thinking twice. So, research from the University of California, Davis raised concerns about the purity and quality of avocado oil sold in the US. Researchers found that some products labeled as avocado oil appeared to contain other oils, while some showed signs of oxidation before their expiration dates. I have yet to purchase an avocado oil-based snack, mostly because it falls into that fake middle ground healthy category. If I'm eating a snack, I know that I'm eating a snack and I'm gonna just buy the ones that I like rather than tricking myself into thinking it's healthy. Also, I don't trust any oil purity. I feel like I've purchased so many olive oil and quotation products that are sunflower oil, and they do taste as such. Okay, let's get into scents. Unfortunately, I was so busy that I didn't review a scent, even though I do have many scents to review. But I do have a slight scent update. On Wednesday, Brian smelled like lollipops from a doctor's office. The lollipops from the 90s that are translucent, very small. They look like glass. You can see the white stick in them. They have a square cellophane wrapper on them. They're not very good. That's what he smelled like. Okay, let's get into the internet. I really wanted to make this lemon mousse that I saw on TikTok. I only have TikTok as a category this week. Light and creamy lemon mousse by Jacques Pepin. He uses sweetened condensed milk, a ton of lemons, whipped cream, Grand Marnier. Here's the thing. This serves how many people? Okay, so this is based off of like a classically sized can of sweetened condensed milk, which I have a can of because I want to make Atlantic Beach pie. But here's the thing. I want to make these lemon-based desserts, but it's only me and Brian. So then it's like, what do I do? Because lemon juice turns so quickly and I can't eat a whole pie in a day. And the Atlantic Beach pie, the crust goes soggy because it's saltines. And then this lemon mousse is supposed to serve 8 people. And I know it's going to turn in the fridge with all that lemon juice in it after a day. You really have to eat a day of, in my opinion. So I can't make this. I need to invite 8 people to my house to make lemon mousse. Anyway, it looks great. Maybe one day. This girl on TikTok, what is your name? Let me see. Across Chrissy's Table. Chrissy Downey is her name. Krissy. She has family in Syracuse, I learned in the comments. And she went to 3 bakeries to try all of their cookies and baked goods. She's really reviewing all of the Half Moon cookies in Syracuse, which I am really into. I haven't had a black and white cookie and a Half Moon cookie side by side. They seem very similar, except I know that the Half Moon I know that they're different. People argue about this. But in my mind, a really good black and white cookie is very similar to a Half Moon. I think Half Moons are bigger and cakier. But let's see, what bakeries does she go to? She shows the boxes. When I try and look at there's so many like AI generated summaries when you look at TikTok videos now. So Half Moon cookies originated in Utica by Hemstraut's Bakery. People are saying you got to go to Green Hills Bakery. Of course, I saved all of these on my map. The Clerk's House. People are saying that Wegmans has the best Half Moons. Man, I gotta go to Wegmans. Someone said Holland Farms are the worst, which she said was one of the best. So maybe we shouldn't trust this woman. Chrissy. Yeah, because she said Holland Farms are the best. Ooh. What I do like about all these bakeries that she's going to is they all have these old-fashioned white pastry boxes with the string, it seems like. They all have brush script font on the bakery. And they just look like it's no frill, no like fruity pebble donuts. It's just like soft baked goods. These big fat donuts, these really thin fudgy brownies with a ton of frosting on them. Show us the boxes. Man, I don't know how to do this. What is this? Some sort of apple fritter in the shape of a kidney. Okay, the Holland Farms also sells a chocolate-based Half Moon. They also have something called a Full Moon, which is just vanilla frosting. And the donuts that I'm referring to are called headlights. They are a round donut, chocolate glazed. The middle is not punched out, but it's not filled, which is confusing. And then they have a puff of some sort of vanilla whipped topping on top to look like a headlight. Okay. Exhibition onions. I found people on TikTok. As you know, I've been following people on TikTok who grow pumpkins for size for competition. Now I'm into people growing onions for competition. And they grow a single onion bulb in a tray. And they are just absolutely stunning. They're perfect. They have these long necks. Well, they couldn't have grown them in this tray. They grow them, I mean, usually when people grow onions, they grow them in clusters. But these are grown separately, so they just get really big, and I don't know, I'm just obsessed with them. They look beautiful, and it's like, why don't we use these for Halloween decorations? They look like a beautiful gourd. Anyway, best of luck to them in their competitions. One woman was entering a competition, a weight-based onion competition, not looks, at her local hardware store, which I thought was weird. TikTok has informed me that you should wrap your cake. Kay's Kitchen has said that you should wrap your cake in plastic wrap while it's still warm to retain moistness. People in the comments are saying that they've done this accidentally and it does improve the taste. I should have done this. Kind of makes sense, but I don't know if it's real. Next TikTok video. Marinate, newspapers.com has a TikTok account now. I don't know if you've ever had a newspapers.com account, but they are a fun service if you're ever doing research. So, newspapers.com posted this newspaper clipping from the Ann Arbor News, 1966, for a recipe called marinate hamburgers. Marinate ground beef patties in oil and vinegar dressing before broiling them. The cooked burgers are delightful hot with a topping of cool, fresh nectarine slices and chopped onion. That is super interesting. I think I can't believe this is someone's job to be the newspapers.com social media person. I should have applied if I knew that they were hiring. My last TikTok update before I get into what I ate is this TikTok video. It's a study. Who did this study? Optimal dietary patterns for healthy aging. Some sort of study. He's blocking who did the study, the person's face. I should have looked this up. But what I thought was most interesting about this study is they categorize foods and show how much it affects certain health factors. And the categories of foods they choose are super interesting. Now, if I could just get to that part of the article or the TikTok video. This person their body is in the way. Okay, here we go. So there's like fruit, whole grains, vegetables. These are all, net positive effects on certain health categories like healthy aging, intact cognitive function, intact physical function, intact mental health, free from chronic disease, survive to 70 years of age. So yeah, but vegetable oils, berries, yogurt, low-fat dairy, leafy green vegetables, blah, blah, blah. There were some categories though that really threw me for a loop. If this person would just move their body out of the way. Here we go. Creamy soup. Organ meats, low energy beverages, snacks. Snacks in general could be anything. What was the other one that I wrote down? Oh, dark yellow vegetables. I can't even think of a single dark yellow vegetable. A squash? A dark yellow vegetable? Name one. And why would you single that out? Like, it's vegetables or dark yellow vegetables. There's no in between. Anyway, let's get into what I ate last week. August 10th, 2026. It was a Monday. 9 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half made at home and a leftover slice of pizza. 11 a.m. Toasted heritage grain sourdough with Danish butter made at home. 3 p.m. Half a can of Narragansett. 6 p.m. Potato and cabbage casserole made at home. 7 p.m. Blueberry coffee cake made at home. So got back Sunday night, late in the evening from driving home from the mountains. I hadn't cooked in 5 days, so I decided to, what did I do? Make a casserole and make a cake with the random ingredients rolling around in my very empty fridge. I made this serious eats but Polish cabbage potato bacon casserole recipe because I had most of a head of Savoy cabbage. Of course, I have a ton of potatoes. I had bacon, of course. And I just been spending time with people from the Midwest. So I had funeral potatoes on the mind. I had, Serious Eats is blocking me. Okay, I can't access this recipe anymore, sadly, but I'll tell you what I did. I had 2 slices of leftover bacon that I needed to use up. So I cooked that off, set aside to let it be crispy, and let the fat render into my cutting board as a way to oil it up. I don't know if that's smart or not. Then I cooked up the rest of the sausage from the gas station in Virginia that I was using on that pizza the previous week that I needed to use up. Then I cut up a whole fat onion that I got from the farmer's market, all of the Savoy cabbage that I had, and a whole head of garlic, and I cooked that out with the sausage in a big Dutch oven. I deglazed this with a can of Narragansett that I brought back from the mountains. And meanwhile, I buttered a 9x13 Pyrex dish to pour this all into. What did I do? I put in maybe like half a cup to 3/4 a cup of heavy cream, a bunch of panko, and a ton of parboiled masquerade potatoes that I peeled, cut into cubes, and parboiled with salt. So I mixed all of that together in the Dutch oven, and then I poured that into the buttered Pyrex dish. I topped it with a whole block of Foothills hoop cheese that I got at the meat store in Roxborough. The address of the Foothills hoop cheese, if you're curious, is Foothills Country Ham, 711 Country Ham Lane, Jonesville, North Carolina, 28642. I topped with this cheese, more panko. I baked it probably at 375 for 45 minutes. It tasted like clam chowder. Tasted like New England clam chowder with unpeeled red potatoes. I would make it again. What did I do on this day? I had to work, which was awful. Have you ever returned from vacation and spiraled out and questioned every life decision that you've ever made? I hear that this is a phenomenon where people go on vacation and suddenly realize that they have agency over their own life and their own time, and that there are other possibilities and options. And that's what I feel like is happening. This is what was happening on this day when I was making a casserole and a cake. with no groceries. I also forgot to say that uh, the friends that we met up with in the mountains went on a defunct train line journey. There's a defunct train line, I forget the name of it. I don't know if they're legally operating it, but it's these retired train enthusiasts who operate this train line. You give them like $20 and they will let you ride on this train line. The railroad track is not operational, so they have to run out into traffic and stop cars to let this train go through. And they take you past the jail, which is up on a big hill, and it scares the children seeing a jail for the first time, some of them. And then they drop you off in a hot parking lot for about 45 minutes where you are allowed to go stand out in the hot parking lot. I guess our friends requested that they be allowed back on the train and go home instead of standing in the hot parking lot. So that's what everybody decided was best, and they returned. But just something to do if you're out in the mountains, Western North Carolina. Traveling made me think of Agnes Varda's Du Côte de la Côte, her subversion of a government-sponsored tourism video assignment documentary, where she films France. I really only want what the point of this is, I really only want to go places where I can be with real people who live there and or have access to private oases and or have a purpose or a job there. I don't like being a tourist. I don't like being a random tourist. And I don't know, if you haven't seen that documentary, I would highly recommend it. I wanted to make the King Arthur blueberry buckle recipe, but when I looked at it, it only had 4 tablespoons of butter in the actual cake part and then 4 additional tablespoons of butter, but in a streusel. And the last time I made a cake like that, I didn't like it. So I was like, let me just make the King Arthur sour cream coffee cake because I like that. All of the butter is in the cake itself. So I made that, but I added blueberries. So I made that recipe again, the King Arthur sour cream coffee cake. I used cake flour instead of AP. I subbed buttermilk for the sour cream. I added half of the vanilla to the batter, half to the cinnamon streusel or crumble thing. I used pecans, but I really only had a quarter cup left because Brian shoves fistfuls of them into his mouth absentmindedly. Thank God they were free because pecans are expensive. I went to the grocery store looking for more pecans and I couldn't believe how expensive they are. But people around here during pecan season give us trash bags full of pecans because people just have so many of them. So I'm hoping to re-up my pecan stash at that time. But then actually I did give in and I bought some pecans at Walmart and they're in the freezer and I am hiding them from Brian. I had 3 cups of leftover frozen blueberries, so I put that in this coffee cake. I baked for 350 for closer to 50 minutes because of the frozen blueberries. Typically, this bakes up in like 30 to 40 minutes. The blueberries really push that cook time up. This was super fluffy and lovely. I could have upped the salt. The blueberries sank to the bottom despite being coated in flour first before being added to the batter. And at this point in time, I thought, yes, this cake is so good. This would be the perfect vanilla cake to have with vanilla buttercream frosting. I will update you on that later in the episode. Okay, August 11th, 2026. It was a Tuesday, 9 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half made at home and leftover potato casserole. 11:30 in the morning. A leftover slice of blueberry coffee cake. 2:30 p.m. A glass of iced black tea and 2 hard-boiled eggs made at home. 5:30 p.m. Keftedes with white sauce made at home. 7:30 p.m., a small pour of Narragansett. Keftedes, I don't know how to say this. Keftedes or Keftedes. They're Greek meatballs that are mostly potato. And I saw this woman on TikTok making them, and I thought, I must make these. What is your name, ma'am? Yaya Helensi. She's Greek, but I think she lives in the UK. Keftedes, traditional Cypriot meatballs made with pork mince, potatoes, herbs, and a hint of cinnamon. So for her recipe, she uses 3 slices of bread, 6 potatoes, 1 large white onion, 500 grams of pork mince, salt, cinnamon, dried mint, 3 eggs, and parsley. As you know, I'm not using parsley because of cyclospora. So, and I don't have dried mint on hand. Every year I'm like, I should grow mint in a pot. And then if I do, I never use it. So whatever. Here's what I did. I put 6 medium peeled potatoes chopped into big chunks and 1 white onion also chunked into my Vitamix. I don't have a food processor. Every time I have a food processor, I'm either missing a piece or it doesn't actually work. Do you need a food processor? I don't know. I'm living my life without one and it's going okay. This was a little bit hard to mix up in the Vitamix, so I had to add a little bit of milk. I used a pound of ground pork. I used a teaspoon of beef shawarma spice mix instead of the cinnamon, but it was pretty cinnamon forward, so I thought it would be a good compliment. I used a pinch of dried oregano and a pinch of harissa powder, 2 teaspoons of diamond crystal kosher salt, 3 eggs, 2.5 slices of heritage grain sourdough, which I also blitzed into breadcrumbs in my Vitamix. And then I added a ton of panko because it was wet. Now, the woman in the TikTok video, she says that some people will grate and strain the potato before putting it into the Keftedes, but she says that then it's dry. So she just blitzes it into a puree. She doesn't drain the liquid off. Now, I let this sit in the fridge after I mixed it all together, and liquid kept pooling to the top and on the sides, and I tried to remove a lot of that liquid, but I just kept adding more panko until it became not dry, but, into a point where I could shape it into a shape. Now, this woman just took a scoop with her hand and sort of rolled it back and forth very loosely into her hand like a batard or like a baguette shape where the ends are pointed. Sort of like a quenelle. Am I saying that right? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. It's like she basically made quenelle with her hand. So I made that. And I wanted to make a tomb because I have so much garlic, but I got lazy and made a cheat tomb / white sauce with Duke's mayonnaise. Half a cup of Duke's mayonnaise, a splash of buttermilk, a splash of apple cider vinegar, dash of salt, dash of sugar, 6 grated garlic cloves, and 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. This was super garlicky. I woke up the next morning and it was insane. And I did brush my teeth. My mouth was insane. These are great. I fried these in batches. They fry up in like 5 minutes and they get really nice and dark pretty quickly. And then it's like a nice crispy outside and the inside is sort of steamy and hot and soft. And these were good. And it made so much batter that I actually only used half of it. Okay, August 12th, 2026, it was a Wednesday. 8:30 a.m., counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 10:30 a.m., a spicy chicken sandwich from Food Lion with cookout ranch and a glass of leftover iced black tea. 2 p.m., a small slice of blueberry coffee cake. 3 p.m., a small bag of flamin' hot dill pickle flavored Cheetos puffs. 5:30 p.m., Keftedes with white sauce and mayakoba beans over arugula with parmesan, La Tourangelle olive oil, red wine vinegar, and black pepper made at home. 6:30 p.m. Blue Bell chocolate lava cake flavored ice cream. I did go to Food Lion this day. I didn't go to the office this week but because my boss was in Spain for the eclipse. So I didn't go into the office, but I still needed to go to the grocery store. So I did go to my local Food Lion. And I was going to run to Cookout after, but I wasn't that hungry. And I had a meeting and I was like, let me just see. I went to the Food Lion that doesn't have all the spicy chicken sandwich stuff, but they do now. So I got a spicy chicken sandwich. I had a package of Cookout Ranch at home. It comes with pickles. I added the ranch. It was perfect. And that was pretty much enough for lunch. Went to Food Lion for some basics, but I picked up a box of funfetti cake because I wanted to try the box of cake mix plus can of soda recipe. And then I forgot to buy a can of Sprite. And I love that I just spent over $100 on local flour, and then I bought a box of Pillsbury funfetti cake. Bluebell lava cake. I finally found this. It's at first I was like, this is so good, it should be banned. It's fudge swirl plus a sundae sauce swirl, both chocolate, and then lava cake pieces. At first, I was like, this is divine, but the more I ate it, the more that the chewy lava cake pieces, I was just spitting them out because I don't know. I do not like cake and cookie pieces in ice creams unless it's the classic cookie dough ice cream. They've nailed that. When they're like brownie pieces in it, it's just, they're never really that good, in my opinion. I like this, but I like the Bluebell homemade in the shade flavor instead, which is just their vanilla ice cream, which is perfect on its own with fudge swirl in it. And that itself is perfect. And I don't know, I sort of become ravenous and like just dig out all the chocolate and eat it and make myself sick. So I probably shouldn't be buying it. I served Brian up a bowl of the Bluebell Millennium Crunch, and he said, "Wow, what is this?" I said, "Brian, every time I give you this ice cream, you ask me the same exact question. Every time I say it's Millennium Crunch. I know it has a weird name, but it is your favorite ice cream, and I keep buying it for you." Even before I give him the bowl, I'm like, "Hey, this is that ice cream that you really like." And I hand it to him, and then 10 minutes later, he says, "What is this?" It is really good. Very simple. Nuts, vanilla ice cream. You wouldn't think it was good. I avoid ice cream that has nuts in it generally. Fudge pieces and caramel pieces, like chunks, they call them, but they're like flat rectangles. So, another update is that the 50-cent chip bags, you can get like 2 for $1, those little chip bags. They're now 2 for $3 at Food Lion, or 66 cents each. So we're basically living in Argentina. Which one did I try? The Flamin' Hot Dill Pickled Flavored Cheetos Puffs. These tasted like grass. August 13th, 2026. It was a Thursday. 9 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half and 2 hard-boiled eggs made at home. 11 a.m. A small bag of Chester's hot fries and a small bag of Ruffles sour cream and cheddar chips. 2:30 p.m. Leftover potato casserole and a scoop of Bluebell chocolate lava cake ice cream. 6 p.m. Smoked andouille sausage and pesto mayakoba beans with red wine vinegar and arugula made at home. Oh my god, I forgot to talk about these mayakoba beans that I made. I made a pot of mayakoba beans from Rancho Gordo, and they looked kind of small and green, and I was like, oh man, what are these going to be like? But they cooked up into like big, fat, light brown pinto bean type beans, and they are divine. They're so soft and nice, and I've just sort of been eating them. And I wondered, I had a weird appetite all week, like a low appetite, and I thought it was because I started taking a multivitamin, and my body was like, "Oh, you're no longer missing ingredients, like, stop eating." Uh, but maybe it's because I'm eating beans. I did wake up hungover on this day from eating that bowl of ice cream. Chester's hot fries. Thank God I only had a small bag of these because these are great. I actually just ate a bag of Andy Capp's hot fries. I just stress ate a giant bag that was $1.09 at Walmart. They're $1.09 for a reason. They are not as good as Chester's hot fries. Chester's hot fries are so much better than Andy Capp's hot fries. The queso flavored Ruffles are better than the sour cream and cheddar, I gotta say. Um, it suddenly occurred to me, every day I look out my window at my basil plants and I think, what the hell am I going to do with all this basil? And it suddenly occurred to me that I could just make a pesto. So I made a rough purple pesto and a rough green pesto with garlic, parm, and olive oil by hand in a mortar and pestle. Serious Eats, which I can no longer access for some reason, they had like a Genovese pesto basic recipe. They said that you need to use a marble mortar and wood pestle. So which I did. And I wasn't gonna stand there all day and mash it until it was perfectly smooth. So I made like a rough pesto, and thank God I did because everybody in the comments was like, if you actually make this smooth, it turns into a black sludge. Which I don't know. But I told my mom that I was making pesto, and she said, "Okay, what kind of nuts are you putting in it?" And I said, "I don't have nuts." I did have a can of mixed nuts from Whole Foods, but Brian said they were rancid, so I did throw them away. So I didn't have any nuts to put in this, because at this point I didn't have pecans. Not that I would put pecans in a pesto. I guess I could. But I told my mom, I'm not putting nuts in my pesto, and she said that it's not a pesto. And I said, shut up, bitch. Okay, August 14th, 2026. It was a Friday. 8 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 10 a.m. A hard-boiled egg and leftover pesto beans. 1:30 p.m. A bag of Annie Cap's cheesy tots. Puff corn. 3 p.m. 2 hard-boiled eggs. 5:30 p.m. Braised soy tofu over basmati rice made at home. 6:30 p.m. A slice of vanilla cake with vanilla buttercream made at home. Okay, I feel bad about what I said. I would never say that to my mother. Anyway, I went to Walmart because I needed to buy a can of Sprite so I can make this funfetti cake with a can of Sprite. And I walked all over the store looking for a can of Sprite, and they'd make you buy plastic bottles now. You have to buy a plastic bottle of soda, and it's $2.58. So I bought a bottle of ginger ale reluctantly. And then on my way out, I saw a vending machine where they had cans of Sprite for $1, which is insane in 2026. I'm gonna probably remake the documentary An Inconvenient Truth, where the inconvenient truth is Walmart is cheaper. I don't want to go to Walmart, but it is cheaper. But also, why are chocolate chips $8 no matter where you go? Like Nestle, Ghirardelli, doesn't matter. They're all like $7, $8 a bag. I read an article a while back ago that said it's impossible to make chocolate chip cookies at home that are cheaper than anything you could already buy at any store. And I think it's true. Even like Whole Foods Bakery. It's cheaper to just buy Whole Foods Bakery chocolate chip cookies than buy a bag of chocolate chips, which is only one of the ingredients in chocolate chip cookies. So, funfetti cake. The funfetti cake box makes a 9 by 13 cake or two 8-inch cakes. I only wanted to make an 8-inch cake. So I used half of the box of funfetti mix with 6 ounces of ginger ale or half a can's worth of ginger ale. I mixed this together and I cooked for about 25 minutes in a round metal pan or until it registered 210 degrees on my thermometer. I removed it from the oven. It looked strange and spotted, like micro spots. It smelled like Play-Doh. I wasn't sure if it was worth making frosting for this or not. After it cooled down a little bit, I tasted a corner and I threw it away. If it smells like Play-Doh, I don't think I can eat it. So then I considered making another cake, which I actually did. I made the King Arthur sour cream coffee cake base, as have been thinking about every week, to see how it would hold up to a vanilla buttercream and compare to the Broma bakery, the girl whose website is mostly glamour shots. Her vanilla cake recipe was great, but I thought we can do better. King Arthur sour cream coffee cake base with cake flour, buttermilk, and vanilla. I made that. It was super domed and puffy and tall. It smelled like beautiful buttermilk pancakes. 35 minutes at 350 or until the center registered 200 degrees. Wait, before I get into more cake talk, I got to say these Andy Capp's cheese puffs were not great. They reminded me of that brand Jax, Jax from the 90s that my friend's mom would always buy. And sometimes my mom would buy them for me and I would eat the whole bag. Like the family size bag. I would just eat all of them in like an hour. But they would have hard spots in them sometimes and a cheaper, darker cheese flavor, like a super deep orange. So these were barrel or pill shaped, which made me think of those root beer barrel hard candies or Donkey Kong or Dr. Mario. Let me talk about the tofu that I made for dinner first before I get more deep into the cake. I found this TikTok video of this guy. I'm pretty sure he's in China or he's like a native Chinese speaker at least. His name is Chef Adam. He makes like pretty simple tofu dishes on TikTok and other things. Anyway, I made this really simple scallion braised. Wait, what does he call it? Scallion braised tofu recipe. He does correct himself because he actually used a Chinese leek. People were like, "Why is your scallion so big?" And he's like, "Oh, sorry, it's actually a leek." So you take a block of tofu. I used a red long of Florence onion because that's what I had. 2-star anise, oil, soy sauce, salt, and warm water, and then you have a cornstarch slurry. So you cut the block of tofu in half length or diagonally, and then you cut it into triangles. You put some oil in a pan, heat it up, add half of the sliced onion or leek or scallion and the 2-star anise, and you let the onion brown. Then you add the tofu and you let the tofu fry on both sides. Then you add the other half of the onion in. Then you add, I don't know, like 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, a healthy pinch of salt, and enough warm water to cover it, or hot water. You want it to be like bubbling. And I covered it and I let it bubble away for about 5 to 10 minutes or until I took the cover off to check. And once the water was almost entirely evaporated, I made a healthy amount of cornstarch slurry and poured that in and let it come together for, I don't know, another like 3 to 4 minutes. And I served that over rice. And it makes like a really luscious gravy. And it's really simple, but it's really good. I thought it would be a little bit lacking. Like it doesn't have any sugar or vinegar or anything really to balance out any of the flavors, but it was perfect and I would definitely make it again. And it was so easy. Okay, back to cake talk. So I compared the King Arthur and Broma recipes. Spoiler alert, I ate a big slice of this King Arthur vanilla cake and then I did end up throwing it into the woods. Just like I did with the funfetti cake. I threw the funfetti cake away, then I threw a second cake away because I know I'm wasting money, but I'm not gonna eat terrible sugar and fat calories that I don't even enjoy. I'm not gonna, like, eat an entire cake and make myself sick if I don't even enjoy it. Okay, so per 100 grams of flour, Broma Broma's vanilla cake recipe has more sugar, more fat, and egg, but less buttermilk than the King Arthur recipe, which is interesting. What was it about the King Arthur recipe that I didn't like? The first day it was good, it wasn't great. The second day I thought it would be better, it wasn't. I think that the King Arthur recipe was too buttery and sort of tasted like a wedding cake, like all the aspects of a wedding cake that I don't like. And I should have used half oil. I used full stick of butter. I should have done half oil, half butter and tried that out. But overall, if I were to make this again, I would go back to the Broma recipe. I'm glad I tried the King Arthur out, but I'm also mad that I made it and then it wasn't. It also tasted too much like the coffee cake to me, and I think it's by association. I like associate that cake base with a coffee cake, which is a little bit sort of denser or heavier by design, even though it is light and fluffy overall. It's light and fluffy for a coffee cake, but not for a recreation of a box cake, if that makes sense. It's all relative. So, next time I want to make a vanilla cake, I will make the Broma cake again, and I will just make sure that it is baked a little bit longer so it isn't as dense as it was the first time I made it in the middle. It was just a little too dense in the middle, but other than that, it was perfect. And I did remake the scaled down Preppy Kitchen buttercream recipe, which I loved the first time. I think I whipped too much air into it this time and it wasn't as good. It tasted too buttery. Something was off. I also followed the recipe this time, which I didn't really follow previously. Like I didn't add that liquid at the end. Um, I don't know. Maybe I added like a tablespoon of buttermilk or something at the end, or I forget what kind of milk. But this time I think I did a mixture of buttermilk and heavy cream last time and just a dash. This time I added a full 4 teaspoons of heavy cream and then I really paddled it at the end. And I think that heavy cream took on too much air and sort of added to the whole butter flavor overall. And it wasn't good. So lesson learned there. Less liquid or, you know, l less liquid overall or just less liquid that will take on air if you paddle it. And just paddle slowly so it doesn't take on too much air. And I don't think I salted it heavily enough. It was super salty last time, and I think it really made it. So, I did start a Google Doc with my best of that I know of so far. I don't know what to call it. Best recipes of each type. How do I say this? I have vanilla cake, colon, and then I write in which recipe that I've made that is the best so far. I think Broma is going to take it. I think we can improve on the Broma recipe slightly, but I think it's going to take it. I still do think that the Preppy Kitchen buttercream recipe is perfection. I mean, all buttercream recipes are basically the same. American buttercream. So whatever. I just didn't make it properly this time. I do think that the King Arthur sour cream coffee cake recipe is quite perfect, but for coffee cake, not for vanilla cake with vanilla frosting. And I will have an update on my chocolate chip cookie recipe in a moment. Brian's review of the cake was very moist, and then he poured himself a glass of milk. I could tell by his reaction that this was not the cake. If I bake something that is really good, first of all, he starts yelling. He'll eat like 4 servings of it. He'll demand more. He'll jump off the couch. He'll run over and fight me to cut himself another piece. He didn't react this way with this cake, and I thought, yeah, we're not going to eat this. Okay, August 15th, 2026. It was a Saturday. 8 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 10 a.m. A sunny egg over leftover rice and pesto beans with North Country applewood smoked bacon made at home and a small piece of leftover vanilla cake. 2:30 p.m. A hot dog with coleslaw, onions and chili, a honey mustard chicken wrap, and cheese curds from Cookout in Oxford, North Carolina. 6 p.m. 2 chocolate chip cookies made at home. Oh, I don't know if even finished my pesto thought. I took the cold leftover Mayakoba beans and I mixed some of them with the green pesto and some of them with the purple pesto. I still have some that are pesto less. What I liked about this was they're good over a salad. They're good on their own, but you could also heat them up and have a warm pesto, like a hot pesto bean side. Brian was really into this bacon. It's North Country bacon. It was 2 for 1. I think it's reduced sodium. It's pretty good. It crisps up very quickly. I put it in on a sheet tray for 15 minutes at 425 in the oven, and you really got to pull it out right at 15 minutes and like let it finish because it I don't know, it overcooks. I mean, there's plenty of fat in it, but it doesn't have that like rubbery, like nasty fat that doesn't really crisp up. It really crisps up. It's nice. Not overly chewy. Okay. Went to Cookout. Brian, as soon as I ordered a hot dog with Carolina style with coleslaw, onions, and chili. I've never had a Carolina hot dog. I've always wanted one. As soon as I ordered that, Brian gave me a death stare and said I have to sleep outside. He has an issue with chili and chili in general. I thought this was great and I would order it again, but only if I go to Cookout alone, I guess. I also tried the honey mustard chicken wrap for the first time, which I would recommend. I always recommend the cheese curds. This was a good Cookout order. I'm running out of new things to try. I don't think I've had the barbecue sandwich yet. Actually, I think I got the barbecue sandwich when I can't remember now. The first time I got Cookout, I thought it was really bad. And it kind of is, but I don't know. Let's talk about these chocolate chip cookies that I made. I've been avoiding Sally's baking addiction recipes in general because, I mean, it's called Sally's baking addiction. And then it's this really peppy, seemingly type A person. I don't mean to judge, like, this person has a successful blog. But you know how I feel about random bloggers, especially when they have a ton of ads on their website. Like, what's the end goal here? I know they do need to support themselves, but I think when people are too peppy and nice, I don't trust them. And I didn't trust this person. But this recipe is so highly rated and I keep seeing it. I was like, I guess I should just try it. Then random TikTokers who can't even put weights on their or proper measurements on their baking recipes. Sally has more experience than random people on TikTok. It seems she actually does proper weight measurements. She does explain a lot. She does proper recipe development, it seems. I was sold as soon as I saw that she shapes the cookies into towers so that they don't spread too much. I was like, I had this thought, but I thought it was too crazy. I'm sold. So let me just read you the recipe. Hopefully I'm not blocked. So it's called Chewy Chocolate Chip Cookies. It has almost 6,600 comments. 2 1/4 cups or 281 grams of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1.5 teaspoons of cornstarch, half a teaspoon of salt, 3/4 cup unsalted butter, melted and cooled, 3/4 cup or 150 grams of packed light or dark brown sugar, half a cup of granulated sugar, 1 large egg plus 1 egg yolk at room temp, 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract, 1 1/4 cup semi-sweet chocolate chips or chocolate chunks. This is pretty similar to the Nestle Toll House cookie recipe, which I always hear is good, but I actually haven't had it as an adult, I don't think, at least not in recent memory. It does differ in that it has some cornstarch, it has more brown sugar than granulated sugar. It does an egg plus an egg yolk instead of 2 full eggs, and it does incorporate cornstarch. So it is a little bit different from the Nestle Toll House cookie, but it's still a very similar cookie in nature. She only uses 255 grams of chocolate chips, which is not a whole bag. I didn't think it would be enough chocolate chips, but it was. Brian's mom came over and had one of the cookies, and her only response was, "This is a lot of chocolate." Then she drove away on the gator, almost rolling down the hill, eating the chocolate chip cookie. I thought they were really good. I knew that the dough was gonna be good because I let Brian taste the dough. I knew that the cookie was gonna be good because I let Brian taste the dough, and he immediately started yelling and screaming to give him more of the dough. He was sneaking into the fridge to get more of the dough. Anyway, melt the butter. I slightly cooled it, but in my mind, when you're making brownies and you want that crackly top, and they say to let the sugar melt and let the sugar melt so that you get that crackly top. I don't remember the exact science behind it, but in my mind, I'm like, I don't like those puffy matte cookies. Let me melt the sugar into the hot butter a little bit, and maybe it'll have that sort of like sunken, glossy, lustrous finish that I want. That is pseudoscience, but that was my thinking. Anyway, I made the dough on Saturday morning around 11 a.m., thinking that I would let it set up overnight per Sally's recommendation. She says chill at least 2 hours, but overnight is recommended. But I decided to bake off 2 of the cookies around 5 p.m. just to test them out and see if we were anywhere close to what I was looking for. So I baked 2 cookies, 50 grams each at 325 for about 13 to 14 minutes per instructions. And you're supposed to form these sort of like lumpy towers and with like a flat bottom so that they stay where they are. And then you want them to brown on the edges and like a little bit on the top. Um, and that really took like up to 18 minutes for me, but it still wasn't quite getting there. The next day, they had a much easier time browning than day of. Sally puts chocolate chips on top of the cookie after they bake, but that feels kinda weird to me because then the chocolate chips aren't the same texture as the others, like, they're not baked. Maybe they melt? I don't know. These are, like, like, not I mean, I would say they're perfect, but it's hard, like, I think they're perfect. But I mean, I would be willing to try other recipes out of curiosity, but in terms of what I'm looking for, these were perfect. They were delicious day of. They still have a little bit of that crispness and that butter flavor and that melty chocolate day of. Next day, they're perfect. They're like what I'm looking for in like a what you would think of as like an oil-based grocery store cookie where it's like super soft all the way through and perfectly tender. Just a little bit of chew. I mean, it was perfect. I really can't argue with it. Um, we ate all of them. August 16th, 2026. It was a Sunday. Oh, and Brian drank all of the milk that we had with these. He saved a little bit in the morning so he could give our cat Daddy some milk. Great Daddy has a little tiny bowl of milk every morning. But we're out of milk. 8 a.m., counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 10 a.m., a sunny egg, fried chili potatoes, niece's extra sage, sausage patties, and leftover pesto beans made at home. 2 p.m., 2 chocolate chip cookies and a glass of iced black tea made at home. 4 p.m., Japanese curry with ground beef, potatoes, onion, carrot, and peas over basmati rice made at home. 6:30 p.m., 2 chocolate chip cookies. I woke up around 8:30, put on coffee, and started making breakfast because frying tomatoes takes a long time. I have to fish dirty potatoes out of our giant potato tower, scrub all the dirt off of them, remove anything weird, sort of sort through them because some of them are starting to rot. I mean, they're always rotting. They're always in a different stage of rotting as you pull them out of the ground. Then I have to peel them. Then I have to cut them. Then I have to wash them again because they are pretty dirty. Then I parboil them, drain them. Then I put them back in the metal pan that I boiled them in with the lid on so that they continue to steam while I heat up a cast iron full of oil to fry them in. Now, I used to heat up the oil next to the pot on the stove, but the stove or the pot would sputter and get water into the pot of oil. So, this is my new method. Steam the while the potatoes are steaming in their own pot, which gets them perfectly soft, I heat up the oil. When the oil's ready, I shake the potatoes up in the pot to get that craggy texture and then pour them into the oil. And I fry them. While they're frying, I made some Nice's sausage patties. I did buy the new Nice's sausage that come in the shoebox now. They are wrapped in a heavy plastic inside the box, so it's not loose in the box. I got the extra sage per Brian's request, which I was afraid would taste too much like Thanksgiving, but it didn't. And this is my first time having Nice's. I usually buy Bass Farms, and I think I'm a convert. I think that Nice's is the way to go. And I only used half of it. Made little sausage patties, fried them off, and then I cooked the eggs in the leftover grease. And yeah, baked off more cookies. I had a fresh cookie and a day-old cookie side by side. Completely different experiences, but like perfect. Both experiences were perfect in their own way. And what else did I want to say? I feel like I'm leaving something out. Oh, even when a couple of the cookie columns fell over onto their sides, but they still turned out fine. Like they turned into nice cookies. They were a little more oblong or like egg shaped, but they didn't like spread out into gross monsters. So I really do think you could maybe even cook these as balls and it wouldn't be a problem. I mean, what Sally does in the video is she makes these towers, and if they start to spread too much, she pulls them out of the oven and then with a spoon scrapes the sides back into each other. I don't know. It's a perfect cookie. If that's what you're looking for. I was talking to my mom about cookie recipes, and the recipe that she always made growing up was the Todd English recipe, which is similar, but it has oats in it. And I am curious to retry that recipe. And what else? The top New York Times cooking recipe is the Jacques Torres cookie, which I am also curious about trying. But this curry, I got the S&B Japanese curry packet or box of, curry cubes from that Japanese grocery store, and I got the extra hot, which was not hot whatsoever. Very confusing. I had some ground beef that I thawed and I browned off in chunks. And then I added a fatly diced onion, big chunks of potatoes, carrot, and then I threw in some peas, even though it's not traditional, I don't think, or at least not per the box. The box didn't say put peas in it, but I just thought it makes sense here, and something green would be nice. And we had that over rice. I did add chicken stock instead of water, cooked everything for a while, added the curry cubes at the end, and let it all come together. I did add a touch of soy sauce at the end as well, and it was very good, but not spicy at all. Um, honorable mentions. So I scratched off a few things off of my honorable mentions list, vanilla cake wise. Um, I do want to try Dave's pizza oven pizza dough again. I think I've made at least one of his recipes, but I didn't realize that his basic pizza dough incorporates a 12-hour room temperature ferment, and I think that's what I need to get some, like, proper gluten structure in my dough. So I think I will be trying that. Um, I still need to make the New York Time black and white cookie, New York Time crumb cake, the I Am Baker slash cupcake project vanilla cake. I should try that actually and compare it to Broma. I do want to make a wacky cake with mayonnaise. Um, and I still need to do the Entenmann's chocolate chip cookie recipe. Man, I tried to keep it under an hour and I failed. So sorry, everybody. I'll talk to you later.